The whole India knows about the fog and cold of Delhi. Delhi looks very beautiful in the harsh cold, but in this cold, we get to see a lot of fog, dense fog, which covers the entire Delhi like a sheet. But what if this fog brings something that could change your life completely? Is this today's story of Wayne and his friends? Yavin and his friends were troubled by the increasing pollution in Delhi and wanted to get away from the city for a while. They all planned a trip to Himachal. Just 3 days later, they hired a cab and set off for their trip at 4 a.m. The driver who came to pick up Yavin and his friends was very cheerful and friendly. In no time, everyone became friends with the driver. They had been on the road for about 4 hours, and it was around 8 a.m. The sky was still dark when suddenly everyone in the car saw a thick blanket of fog ahead on the road. The fog was so dense that the road was completely invisible. Yavin noticed that their driver, who had been smiling a lot earlier, had suddenly become very serious, as if all the color had drained from his face. Yavin thought that maybe the driver was getting nervous about driving in the fog. He placed a hand on the driver's shoulder and said, "Hey, don't worry, just drive slowly through the fog." At that moment, the driver looked at Yavin and in a trembling voice said, "I have a warning for you. Please keep the car windows closed while we pass through the fog. Don't open them, no matter what." The driver was so scared that Yavin and his friends couldn't help but laugh. The driver then explained that in the area they were in, fog never comes. And whenever such fog appears, it brings with it a deception, a lie, a trick. Yavin and his friends didn't believe the driver and dismissed his words as superstition. Before they knew it, their car had entered the fog, which was much thicker than they had expected. The driver was slowly moving the car forward, but no one could see anything ahead. Suddenly, Ria, who was sitting in the car, started feeling on unease. She could hardly breathe. She forgot the driver's warning and opened the car window, sticking her head slightly out. As soon as Ria opened the window, she breathed again, but the fog had now entered the car. A few seconds later, as soon as Ria looked inside the car, she was shocked. The car was moving on the road, but there was no one else inside the car. Why, except Ria. Ria's mother-in-law got stuck there. Gyavan, Ravi and the driver, all three were missing from the car. The car was driving itself. Ria tried to open the car door to jump out, but the car was locked, and no matter how hard she pulled, it wouldn't budge. She started screaming loudly inside the car. Then, after a little while, the car slowly came to a stop, and the door unlocked. Without thinking, Ria opened the lock and ran out of the car. But all she could see around her was thick fog. Ria began to scream for help, her heart racing. Then, in the fog, she saw a black shadow in the distance that looked like a very large man. Ria started running towards that man for help, but as she ran, she noticed that she couldn't get any closer to the shadow. It always remained the same distance away. Before Ria could understand anything, she felt as if someone was standing behind her. She was so scared that she didn't even have the courage to turn around. But mustering her courage, when Ria looked back, her soul froze. Behind her was a 12-foot tall black shadow. Seeing the tall black figure, Ria started trembling badly. Suddenly, she was pushed hard from behind and fell down. Gyan, Ravi, and the driver were still in the car. As soon as Ria opened that window, she had fainted. The driver immediately told Ravi to quickly close the window. Gyan and Ravi were trying to wake Ria up, while the driver kept repeating the same thing. She shouldn't have opened the car window. Gyan was getting angry at the driver, feeling that he was overreacting to a medical emergency. Gyan just wanted to get Ria to the hospital. He told the driver to speed up. The driver agreed and pressed the accelerator, but just a few seconds later, a girl suddenly appeared in front of the car. Due to the high speed, the car crashed. Gone. After the girl was hit, the driver stopped the car right there. Now, Yavin and Ravi's breath was caught right there. Yavin immediately got out of the car to check on the girl. He saw a girl lying face down on the road, covered in blood. As Yavin turned her over to see her face, his heart sank. The girl lying there covered in blood was none other than Yavin's friend, Ria. Yavin couldn't understand anything because Ria was supposed to be in the car with him. Yavin went back to the car and saw that the entire car was completely empty. No one else was sitting inside the car. Yavin couldn't understand anything. He was very scared. Yavin lifted Ria's body and placed her in the car, then sat in the driver's seat and started driving the car. Yavin was driving the car through the thick fog. Just then, that 12-foot tall or dark shadow appeared in front of the moving car, and Yavin lost control of the steering wheel, causing the car to crash into a tree on the side of the road. The next morning, their car was found crashed into a tree, containing the driver, Yavin, Ravi, and Ria. All four of them survived that foggy night, but due to the injuries, Ria's mental balance was disturbed, and she was so traumatized that now she sees that same dark shadow everywhere. The next time you go out in the fog, never open your car window.